Today we're going to talk about the absurd run-up recently in Ethereum as well as Litecoin, especially Litecoin because a lot of you are asking me, should we buy Litecoin? Should we sell it? Is it overextended? Is it about to go to the moon? So on and so forth. So today I'm going to offer my opinion on both Ethereum and Litecoin, and I'll probably talk about in a separate video either later today or tomorrow talking about Bitcoin and the effect of futures so far and my thoughts, given price has gone up quite a bit since the futures have come out. But for now, we're going to focus on Litecoin and Ethereum because that's sort of where the story is at the moment. Now, starting off with Litecoin at the moment, I would suggest to probably be a little bit more cautious, at least when it comes to buying on GDAX. And the reason I say this is because roughly 30% of the volume at the moment is coming from GDAX. You have to include the fact that you have Litecoin to Bitcoin, and then you also have Litecoin to the Euro. So if you include all of those, it's close to roughly 30%. 70% of the trading volume is saying that Litecoin is trading somewhere between $300 and $320, right? So only 30% is dictating that it's all the way up at 360 to 380, like we're seeing on GDAX at the moment. And we've seen this many times before where GDAX has this massive premium to all the other exchanges, and often what happens is the premium starts to close. In other words, we don't see all the other exchanges catch up, rather we see GDAX start to slow down so that it matches the other exchanges, right? It's the same thing with the South Korean exchanges. A lot of times those get ahead in terms of price. It's not like all of the other exchanges are rushing to catch up. Rather, often the South Korean exchanges might start to slow down. So what I suspect is going to happen at the moment is the GDAX premium is going to start to close. So I think it's overvalued on GDAX at the moment. I would not purchase it on there. However, in terms of whether or not you should buy Litecoin at the moment in general, at least if you're looking at some of these other exchanges, you can see here there is quite the disparity in terms of the value to Bitcoin. But you can see it's closer to this like 1.8 million, 1.7 to 1.8 million Bitcoin range, Satoshi range, excuse me. And if we go here, if you go over the long term with Litecoin, right, this is Bittrex at the moment. If you go over the long term, you can see that there's sort of this key resistance slash support level. And I would say now it's support, obviously, because we broke through it. It wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, at least in my opinion, to put a buy order at roughly that area, roughly 1.75 million Satoshi, and see what happens. Basically, I would put a buy order here, and then I would put a sell stop maybe like 20% below the market, 20 to 30% below the market, and then I would simply move up that stop as price went up. And if you get whipsawed out, that's perfectly fine. Because we're in uncharted territory, it's very difficult to tell what's going to happen with Litecoin next. Again, for all I know, we go up to 3 million Satoshi. For all I know, we go back down to this level that we have been trading at, which is roughly 1 million Satoshi, right? So I don't know exactly what's going to happen next. No one does. I would say this is an exceptionally risky trade. It's probably not one that I'm going to participate in. And if I do participate in it, I'm probably only going to do not a ton of money. Okay, not a ton of money. But what I have learned from cryptocurrencies so far is that when they rocket, when they go up like this, they tend to keep going up. I mean, I know it sounds so stupid, but we saw that recently with IOTA, where essentially we saw this explode right through some of these previous resistance levels and just completely break through them and go all the way up to, wow, 40,000 Satoshi per million IOTA, which is just insane to me. So I will say this much, okay? When it comes to investing in Litecoin at the moment, I would not buy it on GDAX. If you are going to buy it on Bittrex, buy it on Binance or whatever exchange works for you. And then I would say I would wait for like roughly 1.75 million Satoshi, and I would put a stop order to limit your downside risk, because I'm telling you at the moment, it would not surprise me if Litecoin went in either direction. It can go up to 3 million Satoshi, or it could go all the way back down to 1 million Satoshi. And you have to be very careful with that. So in terms of Litecoin, I'm not very bullish. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. I wouldn't mind riding along with it, but I would not invest a substantial portion of your portfolio into Litecoin unless it's something you feel comfortable with, plain and simple, okay? And that has nothing to do with me being against Litecoin. I actually like Litecoin quite a bit, but you know, when you see rises of this nature, you have to be very careful about them, in my opinion, especially when, again, you can see that Litecoin is sort of reaching uncharted territory. It is very important that it did break through this resistance level, though. So, again, we could see it continue to rise, maybe up to 3 million Satoshi, 4 million, so on and so forth. I just don't know. Cryptocurrencies tend to behave that way. And if that's the case, then purchasing some at this support level may not be the worst idea in the world. If we break below the 1.75 million Satoshi and close below it, I would say to be a little bit careful. When I say close, I mean, you know, in the next 24 hours or so, if it's trading below that level, then I would be fairly careful when it comes to Litecoin. Okay? Let's move on to talking about Ether, because that's probably one that interests me a little bit more at the moment, because it's still really very cheap relative to where it has been historically. I mean, you can see we haven't even really recovered from, you know, the previous highs that we've seen recently. And I will tell you that there was a lot of support at that 4 million Satoshi level that we haven't reached again. We're not back at that 4 million Satoshi level. So what I suspect is that if this is able to break above 4 million Satoshi, then we'll be just fine. And this will have been a great investment even at $600. And I would say the target price, as insane as this sounds, I would try to get it all the way up here close to 6 million Satoshi, which puts you at roughly, you know, I would undercut 6 million Satoshi, but that's where I would start to try to take some profit, a substantial amount of profit if you're invested in Ethereum at the moment. I would say that ends up working out to be roughly $1,000 per Ether. So I wouldn't set your sell limit in terms of US dollars. I would actually set it in terms of Bitcoin, and then I would aim for roughly somewhere between 5.5 to 6 million Satoshi. And if you look at Ethereum over the long term here, you can see that really this is not even that much of a run up at the moment. It seems substantial in US dollars because we're in all-time highs, but that's just because Bitcoin is, right? So I would start to try taking some, if we break above the 4 million Satoshi mark, right, because that's going to be the very important part. You could try to take some profits at roughly that level. I would not hate doing that. I wouldn't take a ton of profits at that level just because I think Ethereum can go a lot higher than that. I would start taking substantial amounts of profits at roughly undercut 6 million Satoshi, because I think that's the next key resistance level. And then above that, you start talking about roughly that 7 million Satoshi level. And from there, if it breaks above that, I'll probably release a different video, because at that point, you know, Ethereum would be over $1,000 and it'd probably be making all of the headlines pretty much everywhere. So I'll probably make a video if that ever happens. I'm hoping it does. Obviously, that would be great. But at the moment, the key thing to watch is if Ether can actually break above 4 million Satoshi. If we can break above that 4 million Satoshi level, then I'm very bullish on Ether, despite the fact that it might seem insane when you look at this run up here. It's all in US dollars, and that's the important thing to remember. And if you compare it to Bitcoin, it really looks like paltry in comparison, right? Even if you look at it relative to Litecoin, it looks paltry in comparison. So I am bullish on Ether still. I think that we have an opportunity here, even at the current price, to buy. I've said this before, I think Ether will appreciate against Bitcoin, at least in the long term. I have a long-term investment in Ether at the moment. I've sold some of it at different levels, basically because I have realized that Ether does tend to depreciate against Bitcoin lately. As of late, it just hasn't been doing all that well. But I do think there's going to come a point where that reverses. I think that the SEC statements were exceptionally ICO friendly, which is good for Ether. So I think overall, we're probably going to result in a situation where this hopefully breaks above the 4 million Satoshi level and makes a run for 6 million Satoshi. And we'll see what happens. Whether it does or doesn't, I guess we'll see. So those are my thoughts on Ether and Litecoin. I'll probably again be making a video shortly here talking about Bitcoin and the effect that futures have had, and whether or not I'm bullish or bearish at the moment in the short term. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, as usual, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Check out the description for some affiliate links as well as a Coinbase referral link that you can use to purchase Bitcoin. We both get a little bit for free, so check those out if you're interested. Otherwise, leave a like, comment, and subscription, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.